Dear viewer, what if I told you that your brain is playing tricks on you? And that there are those who can use a psychological secret of the highest danger against you? Don't believe me? Let's put you to the test. Imagine this: as you're walking down the street, a hungry child approaches you and asks for help. You give him $10. The next day, another child with the same plea comes up to you. You reach for your wallet and hand over another $10. Each time, the child's hunger is real. Now, here's where it gets interesting. On the third day, you encounter 10 children together, their need even more apparent than before. How much would you give them? Take a moment to really think about it. From $0 to $10 for all of them. Shocking, right? Wait, you're not a bad person. There's a fascinating psychological reason behind this. Be aware, because this secret is being used against you daily. To understand this, let me first tell you the tale of Phoenix, one calf's miracle. In 2001, a devastating foot and mouth disease outbreak was ravaging the British countryside. Day after day, thousands of animals were culled to prevent the spread. The numbers were staggering, entire herds destroyed, livelihoods ruined. Yet, despite the scale of the tragedy, most people seemed oddly unmoved. Then, one day, as workers arrived at a farm in Cumbria to dispose of the latest victims, they made a startling discovery. Amid the lifeless bodies of a culled herd, they found a tiny calf, just 11 days old, huddled next to his dead mother. Against all odds, he was alive. The workers named him Phoenix, for he had risen from the ashes of destruction. As they prepared to euthanize him, word of his survival spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everything changed. The nation was gripped by Phoenix's story. News channels that had been reporting dry statistics for weeks now led with Phoenix's fight for survival. Protesters took to the streets, demanding a stay of execution for this one small calf. In a stunning turn of events, the British government not only spared Phoenix but also halted its entire culling operation for review. One tiny calf had accomplished what millions of animals couldn't: he made people care. Think about it. What ignited people's passion? After all, the issues are the same, the people are the same, and executions of animals are still executions. The only illogical change is the silence of people over the execution of thousands while they are outraged by the execution of a single Phoenix calf. Perhaps the pattern of manipulation isn't clear to you yet. Let me tell you another story that follows the exact same pattern. Ready to have your mind blown? Let's add another layer to this puzzle. In 2015, the Syrian civil war was raging. Thousands of refugees fled across treacherous seas, seeking safety in Europe. Many didn't make it. News reports spoke of overcrowded boats capsizing, of hundreds drowning. Yet, the world's response was muted. Then, on a quiet morning in September, a passerby walking along a Turkish beach stumbled upon a sight that would shake the world to its core. There, face down in the sand, lay a small boy. His red t-shirt and blue shorts, clothes any child might wear to play, were soaked by the waves. He looked as if he might be sleeping, but the truth was far more heartbreaking. The boy was Kurdi, a 3-year-old Syrian refugee who had drowned along with his mother and brother while trying to reach safety. The photograph of his tiny body, alone on that vast beach, spread across the globe like a shockwave. Within hours, the image was on every news channel, every newspaper front page. Social media erupted with outrage and grief. People who had scrolled past headlines about thousands of deaths now found themselves weeping over this one small boy. Some even recreated Alan's pose on beaches as a form of protest, a visceral expression of the pain many now felt. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Donations to refugee charities skyrocketed overnight. World leaders who had been dragging their feet suddenly called emergency meetings and pledged decisive action. Borders that had been firmly closed began to open. One tragic image had done what years of reporting on thousands of deaths couldn't. Now you might have noticed that our brains seem to prefer focusing on just one story over a million together. But why? What makes our brains prioritize one story over countless others? And most importantly, what is the secret that's being used against you daily because of that? First, let me magnify this pattern under the microscope several times so it becomes clearer. Imagine this, it's January 7th, 2015. Terrorists attack Charlie Hebdo newspaper in Paris. 11 killed, 11 injured. The response? Unprecedented. Over 2 million people flood French streets. 40 world leaders march arm in arm. Je suis Charlie becomes a global cry. On Facebook, 70 million people changed their profile pictures to the French flag. Now, contrast this with the ongoing situation in Gaza, Palestine. As of filming this episode, over 40,000 people have died in less than 300 days. That's 3,636 times the Charlie Hebdo tragedy. Question: do people feel 3,636 times more outraged about Gaza? But wait, it's not about Gaza. Do you, as an American, feel that the Vietnam War, which claimed over 58,000 American lives, is 19 times more tragic than 9/11, where 2,977 people died? In a rational world, we should care twice as much about a tragedy affecting 100 people as about one affecting 50. We ought to care 180,000 times as much when a tragedy involves 2 million lives rather than 11. But Slovic has proved in experiments that this is not how the mind works. Enter psychologist Paul Slovic, determined to unravel this mystery. Imagine this, Paul Slovic, a curious psychologist, designed a unique experiment. He gathered a group of volunteers and asked them a tough question: would you be willing to spend precious money to get clean water to a refugee camp? The catch? This water would save 4,500 lives. But Slovic secretly split the volunteers into two groups. He told Group A that the camp had only 11,000 refugees. But Group B? They were told there were 100,000 people in the camp. Although the number of lives that could be saved was the same, 4,500, guess what? People in Group B were much less willing to help when they found out the camp was huge. Isn't that strange? It turns out, when faced with bigger numbers, our compassion fades. Not only that, let me tell you about another mind-bending experiment Slovic did. Picture this, you are a charity foundation. You've just been given $10 million to help fight a deadly disease, and your goal is to save as many lives as possible. Slovic gives you two options. Option 1, you can use the money to fight a disease that kills 20,000 people every year, and your investment will save 10,000 of those lives. Or option 2, there's a different disease that's way worse. It kills 290,000 people a year. If you put the $10 million toward that, you could save 20,000 lives. So, which option would you choose? You'd think most people would go for the second one. Saving 20,000 lives sounds better than 10,000, right? But surprisingly, most people preferred to save 10,000 lives in a smaller crisis. It's like our brains can't handle big numbers. Slovic called this psychic numbing, our inability to fully grasp or emotionally connect with large numbers. The first life lost is very precious, but we don't react very much to the difference between 88 deaths and 87 deaths, Slovic said in an interview. You don't feel worse about 88 than you do about 87. Now, let this sink in. Your brain is wired to care more about one story than millions. Think about it. Here's where it gets truly chilling. If your brain can be manipulated to care more about one life than millions, imagine how this could be used against you. To shock you, I will expose a practical scheme that uses this secret on you. Do you remember the last time you donated money after watching a charity ad? I challenge you to recall whether that ad featured just one story of suffering. Go back and check for yourself if you don't believe me. Why? Simply because if these organizations made you feel like millions of people were waiting for your donation, you wouldn't give a single cent. Not out of stinginess, but because you would experience the psychological numbness we explained earlier. But that's the charitable side of using this secret. Are there more sinister sides? Absolutely. but I won't tell you about them until you subscribe to the channel. Then, you'll get the upcoming videos filled with more of these fascinating insights. Don't forget to share your thoughts on the episode and check out the sources below the video. Until I see you in the next video, stay sharp.